Today I am in a race against time between two huge thunderstorms that are happening. We had rain all morning. I had just a few hours in the early afternoon where we were going to have no rain. So I wanted to get out and plant all of my groceries for the next year for my large family of 7. So let's go ahead and get as many things planted as we can before the weather turns on me and we are heading inside. I was working in my baby's nap time, so a lot of times it is just like hustle. I want to get as much done as I possibly can, but I also keep my expectations low. So my first goal was really just to get some seeds started in this raised bed, and spoiler alert, she ends up taking a super long nap, so I get so much done. But I wanted to start with these cucamelons. This is something new for us, but they are supposed to grow decently well in my area, and the flavor profile lends itself to make me believe that my kids would really enjoy them. So I got, I think, 2 packets. I only planted 1 packet out. We're going to see how it goes. I want to save my second packet just in case something happens to these seeds, like the robins pick them out or something, and I have a second packet to replant. Behind that, I decided to go ahead and sow my carrot seeds. I also have been waiting to get things planted because Wisconsin weather has been so back and forth and our temperatures have been so cold. So I wasn't really in a huge rush to get things planted, but I am kind of in a rush to get some cool weather things in the ground just to feel like I'm starting something. So I planted a handful of different carrot varieties, and I do plan on doing 2 successions of plantings of carrots. So this is just my first planting. Same thing with this spinach that I'm going to be planting here. I do plan on doing 2 successions. I'll do one as a early summer harvest here, and then I will wait to replant until it starts to get colder, probably maybe mid-August to late August. I will plant these, that way they have enough time to mature and I can get a harvest before my first frost date, which is usually somewhere between mid to late September. And then I can get 2 really good harvests of spinach for my family. We will eat this fresh, but most of it ends up just going straight in the freezer, and we use them throughout the winter in soups or like cream gravies with spinach. We don't eat as much as we used to, but it's still really nice to have on hand. Then I wanted to go ahead and get a first succession of green beans planted. I have done green beans in my raised beds before. Usually I plant these in the orchard, but this year we're trying a new weed paper, and the green beans just I'm not going to be able to use the weed paper with my green beans, so I decided to put some of them in my raised beds, and I might still plant some in the orchard. I'm kind of undecided, but either way, I will have a first planting of green beans. One thing that I know for sure is I only want to harvest and preserve my younger green beans. What I mean by that is once green beans start to get a little old and they're on like their 3rd or 4th round of producing green beans, they tend to get really tender and kind of bitter. They're not as good, and I can always tell when I'm pulling green beans out of the freezer that are from a later harvest on older plants. So this year my plan is to plant more successions of green beans, harvest them when they're younger, and once I notice the green beans are starting to get tough and bitter, I will pull the plants, and hopefully I will, have my next succession of green beans planted and ready to go. This year I also don't plan on canning any green beans unless maybe it's dilly beans. I plan on freezing our green beans. When I went inside to get more seeds, I gained a helper, obviously, and she helped me plant these green beans and some snap peas on the second half of our trellis here. I also noticed that we had some grass growing in the raised beds on the edge here, so I went ahead and pulled those, and we planted more snap peas on that side of the trellis. So once I got out into the orchard, I only had about 40 minutes before the rainstorm was supposed to start. but thankfully my husband had gotten home by this time, so he told me that if the baby woke up, he'd get the baby, and he kind of started dinner with the other kids, and he had it handled in the house. So I grabbed a whole flat from the Amish greenhouse that we get. Their herbs and perennials are always 10 for 10. So my husband always goes, we get a couple of flats and we add them to the orchard. In the last video you guys saw, we were working on our bush layer of our permaculture orchard. So orchards have 3 layers. I talked about this in my last video, but your first layer are your trees, whether that be fruit trees, nut trees, things like that. They could even be, flower trees, things like that. Your bush layer is your second layer, which is going to be your bushes, your shrubs, things like bigger flower bushes, roses, peonies, your berry bushes. So many options for berry bushes, like too many to name. And then your third layer is your ground layer, which is just your ground cover. Some people may refer to it as. These are things like flowers that stick low to the ground, like this, your herbs, vegetables, things like that, things that stick low to the ground. They don't get a lot of height. So this is what I'm working on this day, is our ground layer. We're putting in a lot of herbs, some small perennial flowers, and I'm also putting in some zucchini seeds. And the cool thing about the herbs that we're putting in is that in some cases, it's hard because we live in a cold zone. They actually can drop their seeds and they'll come back the next year. Not always. It depends on what we're talking about. Like cilantro, probably not. But other herbs, they do have that potential to drop their own seeds where they're planted, and they will re-sprout in the following year. So they can act as a perennial, coming back year after year. And we have just been slowly adding to this layer of the permaculture orchard. We're not trying to get it all done at once, because you just couldn't. There's just way too much to plant, but that is what we're doing. I'm just picking trees that look like they need a friend. They look like they need a buddy. They're looking a little bare, and I am planting some of these ground cover items around them so that eventually we'll have a really plush agricultural permaculture orchard going.